Video number 2 for how to make love to life or to achieve multiple orgasms. This progression that I'm going to teach you, it's about 11 steps. I'll put up each one of the steps on the screen for you to look at as we get to that point. So something to keep in mind about all these exercises is that in essence, a couple things that are really important to keep in mind when you do these. One of them is to release any sort of goal. You're doing these practices simply for the sake of doing the practices so that you can feel more centered, you can feel more grounded, and you can feel more in your body. That's not really a goal. That's something we should be feeling anyway. So now the multiple orgasms, that's a goal. That's not something you should necessarily shoot for. That's more a side effect. That's a side effect of doing these kinds of practices. And the multiple orgasms oftentimes will happen spontaneously. It's not something that you should necessarily force, because then the act of utilizing a force, the act of using power or pressure in order to sort of create this experience oftentimes will block that experience, because it's basically akin to control. And so the idea of multiple orgasms, particularly when it comes to men, has to do with not controlling. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to teach you how to essentially pave the road to cultivate the pathway so that the energy, when it comes time to make love or to self-pleasure or whatever it may be, it has this new pathway that's cultivated. Now, keeping in mind also that it requires some time to cultivate these pathways. The nervous system, and this will just give you a general idea, it takes 40 days of doing some particular practice, and you could spread those 40 days over the course of a year, or you could do 40 consecutive days, however you got to do it. The idea is that it takes essentially 40 days of some particular practice or 40 repetitions of some practice before the nervous system essentially starts to take on the new pattern. And again, what we're attempting to do here is to center, which then allows the energy to move inward upon, ejaculation or, orgasm or whatever. It allows it to move inward and upward as opposed to outward. So, and also keep in mind that if you're looking at pornography and you're doing these, if you're trying to look at pornography, if you're looking at pornography and trying to have multiple orgasms, it's most likely not going to work. Pornography is an external focus point. So the energy will go to that. So again, we want to be in a space of feeling and sensing. And if you're with a partner, again, you want to be engaged with them. You want to be connected to them. And you want to make sure that, again, you're kind of surrendered into your sexual experiences. So again, if it's a frivolous sexual contact where you don't feel particularly connected to the person, you're essentially denying yourself the energy of connection. What ends up happening is if we put up a guard or a barrier to connection, then we don't allow that person's energy to then affect us, which is an additional pressure that will allow multiple orgasms to potentially occur. So, all that being said, it's incredibly important, again, to become very comfortable with intimacy. And I don't necessarily mean sex. It could be any form of intimacy, closeness, touch, things of that nature. It will help you break down armoring. And the more you can kind of break down armoring, again, the more likely these energetic effects will occur, these inner orgasms, whatever you want to call it. And again, the more you have these sort of self-sensual experiences, the more you have these kinds of experiences in which you're going deeply into feeling and sensing, the more likely when you go out into the world, you're going to feel more connected and engaged in life, which is why I call this making love to life. So here's basically the procedure. So we're going to be using a lot of inner smile. The inner smile seems kind of cheesy, but it's incredibly effective. It's so simple and effective. So step 1 is we're going to begin, at the crown. So what you want to do is you want to close your eyes, put your sense of feeling at your scalp. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by using an inner smile, and I want you to smile inwardly at your left eye. and you want to smile inwardly at your left eye for, let's say, about 45 seconds or so. Then you want to smile at your right eye, again, 45 seconds or so. Then you want to smile at both eyes, again, 45 seconds or so. And then we're going to bring the awareness to the scalp. And what we're going to do is, it helps to do two things, but the first one to me is more effective, which is you want to put your awareness at your scalp and create a sensation of pulling down on the scalp. So like kind of like a small muscular contraction at your scalp. The other thing you can do, if that seems vague to you, is to create a slight suction on your tongue, and that'll enhance the feeling as if you're pulling something. You have to suspend disbelief with this practice that you're actually indeed pulling energy into the body. So again, after you've done the inner smile with the eyes, then you put your awareness, return the awareness to the scalp, and we're going to begin to inhale, again, creating those contractions, and it's as if you're pulling energy down inside towards the third eye point in the center of the head. So right between the brow, back towards the center of the head. You're pulling energy through your crown down into that point on inhale, then on exhale, just allowing it to release up and out. So inhaling, pulling in, exhaling, and it moves up and out. So this kind of washing motion. So after you do, let's say, the scalp breathing, and I suggest doing this for at least 1 minute to 2 minutes. So again, find your amount of time you're willing to commit. Now the second step is we're going to essentially do the same thing, except we're going to move our awareness now down to our testicles. If you're a woman for some reason watching this video, you can move your awareness to your ovaries. Similar concept, similar idea. But with the testicles, what you're going to do is you're going to inhale. Well, excuse me, back that up. I want you to inner smile at your testicles. So you're smiling inwardly down at your testicles. Now, when you're inner smiling, you may notice a couple things. You may notice more light, and you also may notice you can seemingly penetrate deeper into your body. And these are truths. The inner smile kind of like paves a way. It kind of clears out debris, so to speak, and allows us to reconnect. It's a bit like a suture, allows us to sort of suture together our body and all these sort of separate components that at least we feel very separate sometimes. So inner smile at your testicles. On inhale, what I would like you to do is to lift up the testicles. So in other words, contract around the base of the penis. So you're inhaling, contracting the base of the penis, and again, it's as if you're pulling energy into the testicles. On an exhale, simply releasing and letting it out. Now, I suggest you do this exercise either seated on the heels or standing, or put yourself on the edge of a chair where your testicles are hanging off the edge of the chair. You need to have some sort of motion. Cross-leg on the floor, I find it doesn't work as well. It'll still work, but not quite as well. So after you breathe through the testicles, again, you want to shoot for kind of 1 minute to 2 minutes. You may notice a vibration or tingling or warmth, something like that. And that's a positive sign. So the next step is activating the navel point. You can see what we're doing here. We're kind of like connecting the dots in a lot of ways here. So the next area is the navel point. And for the navel point, what I'm going to suggest is doing breath of fire. So now breath of fire is a breath that's done about 2 fingers below the actual navel. So when you pull in, air goes out. When you relax, air comes in. So this is how you do breath of fire. You inhale a deep breath, bring all the air in. Exhale all the air out. Inhale half breath. And once again, breath of fire. So again, when you pull in the navel, air will go out. When you relax the navel, air will come in. So you don't have to worry about inhaling and exhaling. You're just simply pumping in the navel in and out. Now you want to do this for about 1 minute to 1.5 minutes. More is better on this particular exercise. In fact, I highly suggest actually doing breath of fire for up to 3 to 10 minutes. It's up to you what you can do. A lot of times, usually right around 3 minutes, particularly if you haven't done this exercise before, you may notice that the oxygen saturation starts to feelings of tingling sensations or lightheadedness or things of that nature, and that's all normal. So now after the breath of fire, what you're going to do is I'm going to have you pull a root lock. So you're going to inhale, retain the breath. Make sure your pelvic floor is relaxed. Your hips are relaxed, your pelvic floor is relaxed, the anus is relaxed, the perineum is relaxed, the genitals are relaxed. And then you're going to contract the anus, the perineum, the genitals, pull in the belt line, and that is called root lock. And then exhale, maintain root lock. Again, just kind of gently but firmly, I contradict myself there, firmly, I guess, create a contraction, but don't do it so hard you burst like blood vessels in your face. I've seen men do this all the time. They're like, squeezing harder won't do anything. You want to make sure it's more precise than it is a hard contraction. So that is root lock. So what we're going to do next is, and the hope is you're still full of oxygen at this point. So what I'm going to have you do is you're going to retain the breath. Inhale, retain. Now you're going to use the anus, and this is kind of a funny little practice. But the anus you can kind of break it into quadrants. So you have the left side, the right side, the front, and the back. Now the interesting thing is that, like for instance, the left side of the anus actually corresponds to the left side of the body. The right side of the anus to the right side of the body. The back portion of the anus towards the tailbone obviously connects to the spine and the vertebrae. And then the front side represents or connects more to the front side of the body. So with this particular practice, I'm going to have you do is you're going to inhale, retain the breath. Of course, have your attention, your awareness, feeling and sensing inward. And I want you to contract just the left side of the anus alone while retaining the breath. And just feel whatever you feel. And again, this is not about like you should have this particular experience or that particular experience. This is about connecting to your feeling, to your sensing, to your body, and centering. So you're going to do the same thing now. If you can, you continue retaining that breath and you move to the right side of the anus. In all likelihood, you're going to have to do 4 separate breaths for each one of those quadrants. So what I would suggest doing then is exhaling. Move your awareness to the right side now. Inhale, retain the breath. And then pull up on the right side of the anus and notice if you feel a pressure difference inside your body. Do you feel, what is it that you're feeling? You may feel tingling sensations. Again, for me, it's usually this sense of pressure is what I feel. And again, exhale. And then you're going to move to the back side, so the tailbone side of the anus. Inhale, retain the breath, and contract the tailbone side. Again, just retaining as long as comfortable. And then once again, to the front side of the body now. Inhale, retain the breath, and lifting up the front side of the anus, which is the side towards the perineum. And again, the perineum is the space between the anus and the genitals. And those are the 4 quadrants of the anus. And again, we're paying attention to how does retaining the breath and lifting those parts of the pelvic floor around the anus, how does that change our internal experience of ourselves? Again, it's the feeling of pressure is what's most common for me. The next step is we're going to go ahead and do some more breath of fire. So you'll do a little more breath of fire. So let's do another minute or so. So inhale, exhale, retain the breath out. Inhale, half breath, and begin. Breath of fire. And this time you want to do about a minute or so. Again, saturating with air. Inhale. Now what I want you to do is move your awareness to your genitals. So thinking about connecting to the tip of the penis. Now this is probably one of the hardest areas to connect to in terms of your feeling and sensing. But you want to connect to the tip of the penis and attempt to contract from the tip of the penis inward and downward towards the base of the penis. So it's kind of like you're pulling energy into the tip of the penis down to the base of the penis through contraction. And so you want to do this, again, with the breath retained. And you may also want to notice your feet while doing this. So that line of energy runs from the genitalia down the inner thighs towards your feet. So when you contract the tip of the penis towards the base of the penis in that kind of way, what you may notice is, again, heat, tingling, whatever the sensations are, running down your inner thighs towards your feet, and that's a good thing. So again, feeling and sensing your feet, your inner thighs, along with this contraction. And so you want to do this for maybe 3 or 4 breaths. So inhaling again, retaining the breath, pulling at the tip of the penis towards the base, feeling and sensing down to the feet, then exhaling, and just repeating about 4 times. Then what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the next step, which is breath of fire and tuning into the navel area. So what I'm going to have you do now is once again, inhale, deep breath, exhale, exhale out, inhale, half breath, again, breath of fire. About a minute. After a minute, inhale, retain the breath. Bring your awareness to the area below the navel, inside the body. And sometimes it helps to, if you can, lift the perineum very slightly, like you're kind of like it's a laser pointer and you're directing it towards your navel. And you may feel a pulse. And what I want you to do is to smile inwardly into that space below the navel. And again, if you can feel that pulse, that's great. But you want to smile into that space. And then when you're ready to exhale, contract a root lock. So you want to do this at least 1 time. And then what you're going to do is you'll inhale, release root lock, and then just simply meditate briefly, or rather concentrate briefly, at that space below the navel with a nice, soft inner smile. And again, just feeling and sensing. What you may notice your body want to rock. Perhaps it'll rotate. Or perhaps inside the body you'll feel a spinning sensation. Again, that pulse that I mentioned earlier. Or heat. All good. So after concentrating on the navel, and again, I suggest after 3 or 4 breaths, in terms of like the retentions and concentrating on that part with lifting the perineum and all that business, what I suggest is to, again, keep your concentration in that part of the body for, you could do 2 to 5 minutes, but definitely at least 2 minutes. And again, that'll kind of connect you to that part of the body. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring our awareness now up to the heart center. So for this, you're going to place your left hand over your heart center. I'm about blocking my mic. So left hand over the heart center, and then your right over your left. So right in the center of the sternum, right over left. And this exercise is really simple. Just simply maintaining a nice, steady, long, deep breathing and smiling inward down into your chest cavity, down to your lower, you feel into your upper back. Feel your pecs, your chest, your shoulders. Again, smiling and relaxing anything that feels tense, but a deep smile into your heart center. And here you may feel feelings of love, warmth, just general pleasurable sensations and feelings may rise. How do I describe this? This is probably the most cryptic step. This is, and I mentioned in the previous video that the mind essentially exists out here in the field in a lot of ways. Some of us are more embodied than others. Some of us are really intense space cases like myself. I tend to be out here all the time in a lot of ways, for better or worse. But I have to do a lot more grounding, I would say, than the average Joe. But what we're going to attempt here to do is we have essentially 4 points. Once again, very much like the anus, we're going to move our awareness to 4 points. We're going to have the temples, the back of the head where you have that notch, that's the occiput. So right below there, the Taoists call it the jade pillow, I believe. Then there's the third eye point in the front. So we've got these 4 points that we're going to essentially be breathing into. So I'll give you a good example. So as you inhale, it's like you're pulling in, and I like to kind of think of like there's this like circular kind of sphere around my head, around my body in general. So as I breathe in towards my temples, actually I can feel in a lot of ways how my field around the body pulls in towards my body in general. So not just the temples, but all the way down the sides of the body. So on left and right, you're inhaling in, and you may feel, like I said, this feeling of a bubble coming close into the body. On inhale, then exhale, it expands back out. So we're going to do this one side at a time. So starting with the left side, what you'll do is you're going to, again, bring your awareness to the left temple and have a loose awareness of the left side of the body in general. But on inhale, again, it's as if you're pulling in close into the skin, and you want to feel that skin. You want to feel the pressure at your temples. So in, and then exhale and allow it to expand back out. So inhaling, pulling in, exhaling, and expanding back out. So you want to do at least 3 to 5 breaths on the left. Then the right, same thing, 3 to 5 breaths. Inhale, pull in towards the temple, feel it all the way down the body. Exhale, and it goes back out. Again, 3 to 5 breaths. Back of the head, same deal, except now the feeling may be more vague. So you want to really, really focus on that back side of the head. And then you also want to kind of like scan your awareness down towards your tailbone. Again, we're trying to integrate the whole back side of the body. So same thing, 3 to 5 breaths. And the more breaths you do, the more you're going to end up cultivating those pathways. So, feel free to do dozens of breaths if you wish. But again, do at least 3 to 5 breaths, inhaling, pulling in towards the back side of the head, exhaling and allowing it to expand back out. Front side, inhale, pulling in towards the third eye point, as well as in towards all the energy in towards the body itself. Exhale and allow it to expand back out. So after we've moved through all 4 quadrants, again, temples, back, front, then what you want to do is you want to place your awareness at the very center of the head. So what you've basically done is you've created this, from the temples in towards the center of the head, back and front and towards the center of the head. So there's almost like you create a cross. And right where the points meet on that cross is where there's some glands. I won't go into the specifics about the glands, but this is basically the reptilian brain. Which sounds really bad, but the reptilian brain is where all the feeling and sensing is. It's not the neocortex where we get all the sort of woo-woo in terms of sensation and feeling. It's that sort of reptilian brain that kind of reconnects us to the body. So after concentrating at that third eye point, again, which is in the center of the head, you can concentrate in that space anywhere. You want to give it at least, I would say ideally 5 minutes. You want to build up to, as long as you wish. But again, it's a concentration, which is different than meditation. We'll get to the meditation in a moment. So after you've concentrated on the third eye point, then what we're going to do is we're going to do this big, long, integrating breath. So the integrating breath is, we'll do it through the mouth just because you can basically saturate with oxygen. The more you saturate with oxygen, the more it will still the diaphragm. If the diaphragm is moving, your mind is moving. So what we want to do is we want to so saturate with oxygen, it's almost like breath stops. And when the breath stops, the diaphragm stops, that's when you start moving towards that union that yoga is based on, that tantra is based on, that Taoism is based on, etc. So what we're going to do for this breath, and this is a little bit complicated, requires a little bit of practice. You can do this lying down or you can do this seated. But the procedure is basically the same. So what we want to do is you want to inhale through pursed lips. You want to have your pelvic floor relaxed. You allow your belly to come out. And then once you feel like your belly, pelvic floor are full, then what you want to do is you want to pull inward and upward on that navel point, that point that's about 2 fingers below the actual navel, the belt line. You want to pull inward and upward on that, and you'll feel the pressure or the air then move up to the upper part of the lungs. Then you want to relax your shoulders. And you want to inhale a little more. And if you can, relax the throat, relax your jaw, relax your temples, relax anything that feels tight through here. Inhale some more. And at this point, hopefully you're full of air all the way from your pelvic floor, all the way up to the sinus. And then when you exhale. So the exhale is not super forceful. It's pretty much just letting the air fall out. So let's repeat this breath once again. Inhale, deep breath. Pelvic floor filled, belly filled. Then you're going to pull up and in, squeezing the air up into the chest. Inhale more. Relax the throat, jaw, temples, head. Inhale some more. Once you're full of air, exhale, let it fall out. So what you want to do this breath for 30 breaths, or shoot for kind of like 2 to 5 minutes. I guess whichever comes first. In all likelihood, the 2 to 5 minute period of time you'll end up hitting that before you will 30 breaths. But like I said, what you want to do is ideally you want to hit that 30 breaths at least. Then what you'll feel is you'll kind of feel tingling and heat, and you may feel a number of different sensations. Again, that sort of lightheadedness potentially. So again, just do your best. Now, the final step in this whole procedure is letting go. Allowing is a good word here. So impressions that rise, thoughts, sensations, feelings, etc., positive or negative. The key here is to allow. Not analyze, not judge, because those are repressive forces. Those are forces that push down energy and block. So what you want to do is, again, just anything that rises to the surface, simply be present with it. Easier said than done, I get that. Again, just be present with whatever rises, thoughts, feelings, sensations, whatever. And again, over time, what we're doing is you become progressively more surrendered and more okay with what rises to the surface. Every human being has preferences. And these preferences are, we want the positive feelings and sensations, and then the negative stuff comes up and we block it and push it away and pretend they don't, they're not there, but they're still there. So again, what we want to do, and this is how the nervous system ultimately clears. That is the purpose of meditation. I've dealt with many clients where they want to do all the procedures and the techniques and stuff like that, but they don't want to do the meditation. Now, the meditation is the most important part, because otherwise energy won't flow. You got to make the ego very, very tiny, and it kind of has to get out of the way so spirit, energy, whatever you want to call it, can then flow and cause transformation to occur. And again, impressions that are held within our energy body, within our memories, will then start to release and come to the surface. And as long as you're simply present with them and you don't interact with them, any interaction, whether you look at them or try to analyze, well, that'll freeze it in place. That'll hold it. Judgments, that'll hold it. I know I did this for years, where like things would come to the surface I didn't like, so I would push it away, and it just, nothing happened. I didn't transform. Things didn't happen. I didn't move forward. My meditations got no deeper. So again, what you want to do is simply allow things, no matter how horrific or uncomfortable, to rise to the surface and be present with them, to feel, sense, and allow. So with all that said, I apologize for the lengthiness of this video. It's a wonderful practice. This whole progression is absolutely wonderful, and if you really, really want to engage life on a deeper level, doing things like this are incredibly helpful. If you want to have multiple orgasms, you're gonna have to do something different than you typically have done in the past in order to achieve that. And then for most of us, this sort of progression is very different. So something else you may want to consider is doing some sort of yoga practice or exercise before doing all this, because a lot of this particular practice is very internal. So making sure that the body is comfortable and loose before you jump into this practice would also be really beneficial and helpful. So with all that said, hopefully you enjoy this video. Thank you much.